a lot of shame and guilt around money, but here we're talking about the good news. We're bringing some good news around money today, baby.
We're all about the good news.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell us something good.
Tell us something good. Well, I mean, I will. I absolutely will. How about that? How about that? Is that Bart? Bart, my man. All right. Mark in the house.
Looking sharp.
Hey, dude, you know what? You set the bar high last week, so I thought I would just come and bring it.
All right. I like it. I like it. I like it.
We're just going to wait a few more minutes for some other people to come on in. The water is fine.
Lukewarm, good. Room temperature.
Room temperature. Some crisp spring swimming water.
All right, I'm gonna mute everybody, Dave, and except you.
Okay.
And then I think you're gonna be good to go.
Okay, if someone can watch the questions, I mean, I've got it open, but when I...
Sorry, Dave. Hold on. Whoops. Sorry, Dave. I cut you off there.
You're good.
Yeah, but we'll watch the questions for you.
Brilliant. Can you guys see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Ugh. And it's showing this. It's showing both of them.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not my ideal setup, but I guess it's better than the other way. All right, we're going to get started. What's up, guys? Hey, this is your team leader, David A. Rosales from Northwest Indiana, coming to you live from Hacienda de Rosales. And today we are going to be bringing you expense management shift tactic number 2. If you registered, you should have gotten a PDF digital form of the Book of Shifts written by Gary Keller. Doesn't matter if you're here as a guest, you're unaffiliated, welcome. We appreciate your presence and your partnership with our agents across the 3 different areas where we've got people signed up. We appreciate those win-win transactions. Thank you very much for showing up and participating for yourself, for your clients, for your database. Welcome, everyone. Expense management, re-margin your business. Here we go. So, main ideas. Here's going to be your takeaways. You're going to have 7 things that you're going to be taking away from today's class. 1, perspective on expense management. 2, measure your market. 3, size your business. 4, cut the fat, eliminate it. Make the most of what you have. That's number 5. 6, the bottom line. 7, my action plan. So that's that. Perspective here. Now imagine yourself walking across a field on a bright, sunny day. It's sunny here in Northwest Indiana, at least in Porter County. I'm not sure where you're at if it's sunny, but imagine. Suddenly, 2 or 3 dark clouds, you notice them off in the distance. They're looming now right over your head. And a violent storm erupts all around you. You thought the umbrella that you were carrying could withstand anything, but a strong gust of wind turns it inside out and whips it from your grasp. In a matter of moments, you're cold, you're wet, and you can barely see the hand in front of your face. What do? The only thing you can do, you run for cover and you seek shelter from the elements. In a shifted market, you may feel like a storm has erupted over your head. On the one side, sellers and buyers are taking up more of your time, and on the other, your listings are sitting and your closings are becoming more difficult, meaning you are working more for less money, and suddenly your umbrella, the systems and strategies that you've used successfully that gave you confidence, is no match for what you are facing now. And if you protect your margin, you will give yourself time to develop new strategies for a shifted real estate market. So putting that into context of what's going on today, you may be sitting here thinking, going out and working with buyers in this environment, being in the fields, meeting with sellers, doing CMAs, giving listing presentations, being in the field is a detriment to your health and to your family. You may even be thinking that it's a detriment to them, whom you're participating with. Your pending transactions might be slowing down. Your pipeline may be getting less full. These are all possibilities. But here's what I want to say. In a shifted market, because believe it or not, yes, we are in a shift. In a shifted market, you're going to have to pay attention to the details. You're going to have to sift through the wheat from the chaff, and you're going to have to pinpoint those whom you're going to want to work with at a high level and nurture those who need to be nurtured. And I'm saying it like this: you have to have the utmost care and contribution and clarity to the people that you care about most in the context of buying and selling and investing in real estate. That's where the shift is at right now. Are you coming from service, the heart of a servant? Are you coming with clarity? Are you coming with contribution? And are you looking to be an agent of change and purpose and hope in a time of uncertainty? So those are our main ideas. That's the little story it talks about. So it talks about margin, the margin which exists between net sales and the cost of business, and from which expenses are usually met or a profit is derived. So protecting the margin. Moving ahead here, perspective on expense management. Here we go. Protect your margin. When the market shifts, your margin becomes your biggest issue. Protecting your margin equals saving your business. It's time to cut back on expenses. And it says, unless it's nailed down, this is a Gary Keller quote, it goes. Does that make sense? Now, I'm curious, this is a question for you to think about while I'm asking it, is do you know in your business how much you are spending on ancillary services and products? Question mark. Not a question to mark, but question mark. Yeah. Think about that. Here it is, it's now April, so you might have had some things lined up in the pipeline that closed in March, and you may have had things automatically coming out of your bank account, and now it is the 6th of April, and those reoccurring services you might be thinking aren't that important. Watching the margin. Unless it's nailed down, it goes. So who will be affected? Can I really thrive in a down market? No and yes. In the short term, everyone in an affected market will feel the downturn equally, but by cutting expenses fast, anyone can thrive in the long term. This morning, I was on a very powerful call, and one of the things that they pointed out is that there is going to be a magnetic green light that is going to push you forward. So if you can imagine, you're in a roller coaster and you're climbing up. At some point in time, that roller coaster is going to crest, and it is going to peak fast, and it is going to come crashing down as quickly as possible with the turns and the bends. In real estate, we call that the chaos of busyness, right? For sure. And so you have to think, if you're preparing now in the month of April for that green light, because eventually the government state or otherwise, is going to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's go time. Back to work, whatever the case may be. Those buyers who are in a holding pattern, those sellers who are in a holding pattern, right? The investors who are waiting to put that flip on the market. There's also going to be margin markets. Short sales are coming back, friends. Foreclosures may happen. You want to be ahead of the curve and ahead of the game when that green light hits. So there you go. Get your money in shape. Phenomenal opportunities exist, but you need to be fighting fit if you want to take advantage of them. Following these steps, measure your market. What does that pipeline look like? Size your business. What does your database look like? Cut the fat. Where can you trim? Do you really need 5 CRMs? Do you need to continue to shuffle money out to Zillow, who, by the way, is looking to replace you? I don't know. Or realtor.com. Are these things that you need? Are they necessary in the greater scheme of your business? Make the most of what you have. Getting the most out of this experience. So this is just how you participate in classes, right? And I believe very firmly in a law that says how you participate in here is how you're going to participate out there in the real world. So you're either a prisoner, you came here against your will. Not too many people sign up for a class that's virtual of this nature, so that is probably not you. A vacationer, you're slightly tuning in, it's on in the background, you're not really truly paying attention. That could be a possibility. I caution you, don't do that. Don't be a vacationer, friends. The explorer, right? Someone who tentatively listens, someone who wants to take advantage of what's being brought down here. So measure your market. Follow the pendulum swing, okay? So monitor these 6 market indicators carefully. If there was any point in time that you pulled out that PDF, digital or otherwise, you're taking notes, you're writing it down, write this down. 6 market indicators that you should be writing down here following in a shifting market. Making timely cuts in your expenses. More inventory. Meaning you should be getting more inventory. And you might be thinking, David, again, you had mentioned it earlier, I don't want to be going out of my house. I'm not looking at these things. Think outside of the box, friends. Who says you have to leave your home? Right now, you're participating in a class about a shifting market in your home. Who says you have to go and get listings outside of your home? You don't. Increase days on the market. That's a possibility. I was running numbers earlier this morning, though, and they're looking really good. We're still under 30 days in Northwest Indiana. In the last 6 days. It's true. Places that went on the market in March have sold with pending or contingent in less than 30 days. It's true. Fewer pendings. Again, a possibility. A smaller board, meaning there's going to be a contraction of agents with over 2,400 agents in our MLS, between 22 and 2,400. Fewer agents mean more opportunity. But are you positioning yourself now? Lower production and or volume. People who may have been having sales fall into their laps without doing requisite work. Meaning building relationships, because fundamentally that's what real estate is all about, building relationships, fostering, nurturing, caring, building relationships. You may have fewer leads. All of those problems can be solved by fostering those relationships, getting more inventory, and bringing them in. It's going to become a volume game, my friends. Having 5, 10, 15 active listings at a time is going to be your best friend moving forward. Watch your pipeline. Talked about it. Track your income for the next 60 days. In other words, you shouldn't be a realtor who's living paycheck to paycheck. What does that 60-day outlook look like? Sometimes in a CRM, it might give you those projections of what income may look like. Here we call it opportunities. It literally shows you a forecast of what that income looks like. Calculate how many closings you have and your projected income from those closings. Here's a quote. A lot of people don't keep their eye on the ball until they go to the bank and realize their checking account is empty. Nowadays, you just get it on the app on the phone, right? You ain't got no money, okay? So they get better. They have to get to work. But I constantly watch is 30 or 60 days ahead for closed income. Being prepared and planning ahead.
Well, David, also,
Thank you.
it helps me sleep a lot better at night if I can see that my bills are going to be covered for the next 60 days. So if I can look at know what my expenses are, know what my income is, takes away the anxiety. And there's enough anxiety in the world right now. I don't need more of it.
Right. For certain. Most definitely. And so that's what you should be, that's exactly right. If you're able to watch those expenses and watch those margins, you should be able to plan ahead. So if you've dried up here in April, you have no closing scheduled for April, you should already be thinking May and June, especially knowing that for a lot of us across the country, it's possible that the stay-at-home order will be lifted by the end of this month. So, Colleen, you're exactly right. You need to be looking at what is the possibility of me lining up a pipeline of interested people, virtually or otherwise, for May and June and July. Start thinking of the next 60 to 90 days. How many listings do you intend to take in May? How many listings do you intend to take in June? The work started 30 days ago, and if you're behind the 8 ball, good news. Today is the day to start. Perspective, right? So stop and think. How many closings are in the pipeline for the next 2 months? What is your projected income from those closed transactions? What will be your average monthly income based on your 60-day projection? Size your business. It is time to take a cold, hard look at your financial situation. Once you have a clear picture of your financial situation, it'll be easier to see what adjustments should be made. Look at 2 broad categories, your personal expenses and your business expenses. Now, I'm just going to pause here for a second and ask this question. How many people out there have a budget for both their business and for their personal expenses? Yeah, it looks like we got a few dings here in the old chat box.
Red said he does.
Fantastic.
Ben said he does.
Sweet.
Darren said he does.
Brilliant.
Thomasina said no. I'm not going to lie. We do have a budget for all of our businesses. We tend to get a little loose on our personal side because we like to spend money. And so what are the things? Yeah, you're going to tell us what to do. I'm just going to wait and listen.
No, you got it for sure. Absolutely, you're absolutely right, Colleen. And all those who are saying sometimes that's the case. And sometimes it can be vice versa. Sometimes you could be so hyper-disciplined on the personal side that you actually neglect the expenses on the business side. The balance can be put on 2 different perspectives in that regard, for sure. So those of you who are out there and you're saying, yes, you have one, or no, you don't, start thinking, especially now. Now you've got an absolute captivated audience in terms of your money. Every dollar should be being held accountable. And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, you know what you spend now. You're probably hyper aware of what you spend, especially when it comes to groceries, because there's less on the shelves. There's probably less that you're buying. Believe it or not, chips and Oreos are gone. I know, because I like them. And yet, you have to think about these things. What are the essentials that you need to purchase, both on the personal and on the business? And where are the margins that you can cut the fat? That's a good way to look at it. So once you have a clearer picture of your financial situation, it'll be easier to see what adjustments you should make. Look at the 2 broad categories. We already covered that. So, move forward. Hold on. Yes, okay. Personal expenses. Your lifestyle may need some adjustments. It's not the time for extensive vacations. You can't go nowhere anyways. Redecorating your home or buying a new car. These are all possibilities. As a matter of fact, last month I just paid off my car. I've been doing the Dave Ramsey plan for the last 2 years or so, and we were diligently doing what's called a debt snowball, where we're taking any excess income that we had and then rolling it on top of those minimum monthly payments in order to pay off our debt at an accelerated rate. Now, you might not be in the position to do that today, and I want to encourage you to think about how that process works and what it looks like. Even if you just Googled debt snowball calculator, it will give you an opportunity to put some stuff in a spreadsheet that's online and see what it is that you can do. And here's a very interesting thing. You may be making automatic payments on stuff that you can cut the fat off of in order to put towards something that you're paying per month. Credit card, car, whatever that looks like. And if you have no debt, think about what is the fat that you can cut in order to put it aside in order to build up that income equity for 2, 3, 6 months. Especially if we're looking at a window where you're building your pipeline for buyers and sellers to have closings in May, June, July. Watch the margins, get down and cut the fat here in April, if you haven't been doing that already. There's no shame in having not done that already, because the best time to start to plan, if you don't have a plan, is right when. Now, thank you. Appreciate you saying it with me. So, categorize all of your expenses so you know exactly where your money is going. Adjust your lifestyle, etc. So you get it, right?
That's easier said than done, though. Can you give us some pointers on strategies that you've done successfully around that? Because I think that, like, we can say that all day long, and yet it's sometimes it's easier said than done. I'm just going to say.
No, for sure, most definitely. So,
anybody else, Alex or Mark or anybody who's implemented some of these, what have you done that has worked successfly?
I think for a lot of it is I think we don't realize just how redundant some systems are. So I think a lot of it's taking a long, hard look at what we're spending on, and is, you know, are we paying for 2 services when one would actually suffice if we would just take the time to like get into it and see how we can leverage it the most. I think that's a huge one. Eliminating redundancies and expenses.
And David, you guys just did this with your family. Like, you did a great job. What specifically did you do personally that helped with this? Because I think you're a walking testimony to this tactic, and so I want to learn from what you have knowledge personally.
Yeah, so great question. One of the first things that we did is we had a $300 a month payment that we were making. That we, I was blessed to be to help people buy and sell and invest in real estate. So we had some closings and things were stacking up, and so we were able to pay that off. And so we took that $300 payment and then we stacked that on top of my student loans. And so by just taking that extra $300 a month, we were able to wipe out my student loans over the course of the last year and a half, really. And then the other thing that we started paying on was my car. So we were making extra payments in that regard and stacking those things up. We also, one of the biggest things that we did beyond a shadow of a doubt that helped nudge that in the right direction. So it wasn't just the fact that I can control my income. As realtors, we're blessed because we can control our income to a degree, right? We can say how many buyers and sellers that we're working with, and then we can project that income. This is an exercise that's in the student packet that you should have received in email that you should be doing, right? And I asked about that a second ago, about calculating the closings for 60 and 90 days, knowing what's coming in. And so what we were able to do then in that regard is we were able to take that and run with it. So it was that snowball like I had spoke about. So the biggest thing that we did, though, was we actually went on a budget personally and a meal plan. So we looked at the different things and we gave ourselves a strict budget of what we spend in each particular category, right? So if you're looking and you're looking to start brainstorming and categorizing, this was easier said than it was done, is what Colleen had said, is what do you spend on entertainment? Right? How about food? And really think about it. Now, some of us might have a little bit extra discretionary income. We're helping local businesses, or we're taking out of a grocery budget and we're helping local businesses at this point in time, and we're spending some of that money, right, at some of these restaurants, drive-thrus, etc., in order to help keep the economy flowing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, but be mindful of what you're spending. A very good example of this recently was that we bought pizza, and it was like $100. There's 5 of us. Now, generally, when I go out to eat and there's 5 of us, it's usually $10 a head minimum, right? And so that's going to be in addition to. Now, you take that over 4 weeks. We're doing it once a week. That's $200 extra. So you have to ask yourself that question: Is it pertinent enough for you to be doing that on a regular and consistent basis? So as your out of pocket expenses for your food costs, does it make sense for you to do that? That's what I'm talking about. You're talking about food, and when you go grocery shopping, one of the biggest things that you're going to do in terms of food is you're going to meal prep. And you might say, well, I don't want to pre-cook my food and put it in the refrigerator. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a prepared menu for at least 5 days a week. Meaning you should know what you're having for dinner on Wednesday because you have already bought the materials for it. This actually right here was a huge game changer in us to go from spending over $800 a month in groceries, food groceries, to cutting that down exponentially.
Even just being forced to stay at home has caused us to spend less, because we used to go out to dinner like 6 nights a week, and then lunch probably 5 days a week on top of that. I'm not kidding. Like you.
Yeah.
No, we can hear Bart in your background.
Yeah, we're hearing Bart in the background.
Like, is this an opportunity for us to get real with everyone on the call? Like,
100%.
life story, right?
Yeah.
And so, just food cooking, and I love what you say about meal prepping too, David, because like I raised 4 kids, but my kids are grown and out of the house, so I'm used to cooking for an army. And so I always cook these big meals and I wrap it all up, and then nobody eats leftovers and it gets thrown away because they're gone now.
Yeah.
So the other day I finally made a meal that was exactly the right size for Bart and I, and there was no leftovers, and we ate it all, and it was perfect.
That's awesome.
Because of this exercise.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And that's what we all have to be thinking about when it comes to looking at the personal side of expenses. Alex, you got something you want to add?
Yeah, just that, right along these lines too. One of the things that I did, I don't know, maybe instinctively back in the first time I went into like a massive amount of credit card debt with no income during the Great Recession, that I'm noticing a lot of people haven't done yet is take stock of your existing debt obligations and just get them all in one place, list it out. I know that sounds really, really basic, and yet a lot of people haven't done that. I think a lot of times because they don't want to look at it, which is perfectly understandable. And yet, until you get it all in one spot in front of you, until you write it out, type it out, whatever, it's just swirling in your head, right? So not only can you not look at it, it's just like this. You talked about a cloud, right? It was just like a cloud that's hanging over people. And I know it is typically a little bit painful to sit down and go, all right, what is it? What are all the accounts? What is anything that's past due? What are the utility bills that have racked up? Just list everything, right? And what I've found though is when people do that, once they're done with it, they feel a massive sense of relief, because they at least know what they have to work with. It's no longer swirling in your head. And this would go for your budget, which is what you're describing right now, as well as any debt obligations, which is more like a balance sheet, like a personal balance sheet sort of thing. Yeah. But if you just list it out and just get it in writing so you can look at it, that one thing alone will move you so much farther forward in awareness. It could lead to a lot of changes just by doing that very first step of just getting it written down.
100%. As someone had mentioned, if it's not written down, it's not real. Often that's the case with us. I know we're doing virtual classes and we're doing a virtual environment and everything is digital. And yet at 38 years old, I'm still of that old school mentality where I have to write it down, pens, pencils, paper, physically writing it down in order to make it a reality. You know, when we had our debt thermometer, we had it up right here in the hallway, so that every night when everyone went to bed, they saw the growth of that thermometer as we were going down for the night.
Yeah, that was really cool. I saw a picture of that with your daughter standing next to it, of how when you had your debt thermometer and you paid it all off. That was the coolest thing I've seen.
Yeah, thank you. It definitely was cool.
Also, one thing to keep in mind about credit cards as well, just know that most credit card companies, Chase, Discover, whatever, they are willing to waive interest for this month and next month.
Really?
So, I mean, it could save you a couple $100 if you call your bank and let them know, like, hey, I'm undergoing some hardships, and they won't charge you the interest. I mean, it might be $100, $200, but it's something. So.
100%. Yeah, Nicole.
I got something to add.
Really.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Piggybacking off of credit cards too, it's easy to rack them up, whatever that is. Everybody's got their own limit where they're just like, oh crap, I can't pay this off. One thing that growing up as a kid, you remember the American Express commercials, don't leave home without it.
Sure.
So in my previous business, that was something that I got, was an American Express card. I thought it was cool to have, and then I found out you have to pay it at the end of the month. And having that card really added a discipline in me, where I eventually eliminated all my credit card debt years ago, and now month to month I go debt free. I mean, it's not a credit card. The way that Amex called it was a charge card, and I never understood that concept until you get a lump sum bill at the end of the month, and then you figure out, oh yeah, I owe this, and I pay it off, and now I carry a zero balance. So that's something, if you don't get into, that's something you should definitely work on getting into, because it will change your life fast. Because now you use a credit card not as a credit card, you just don't carry cash. You use your card and you pay that off as if you were paying cash. So it's essentially the same thing, only you get points now. So I don't know. That's something that I'm a firm believer in, is, you know, charge something, pay it off at the end of the month, accumulate points, and you get a free plane ticket.
Right, for sure. That's definitely a good strategy. I know that at the Market Center we do that as well, in order to get plane tickets, for sure. You get some of these things. You're absolutely right about that. And to piggyback on that thought, you have to be hyper disciplined when using that as an opportunity and as a piece of leverage. Because if you're not hyper disciplined and using that as a piece of leverage, what often can happen to those who aren't as disciplined as you're sitting there, Nathan, is that you could be left with the bag at the end of the month, right? Like, that was one of the first things that you noticed there. If you're not hyper diligent and disciplined, and now you're stuck with this excess amount of money that you didn't anticipate doing because a shift in the market might have happened and you didn't plan ahead. Just perspective. So you have to be hyper diligent and disciplined. Precisely. Spot on. That's fantastic.
I want to add to that too, because Nate, you mentioned, you know, you're getting points for it too, and you know, as long as you're doing the full payoff, great. What I see as well is sometimes I see people with, well, let's call them regular credit cards, that aren't getting paid off in full every month, and they have this attachment to the points. Right, it's all about the points. And what I would recommend you doing is go and quantify, go and see how many points you get per dollar spent, and then go and add up the interest that you incur by not paying it off, if that's the habit that you've built, right? And go and see which one is bigger. And I can 100% guarantee you one thing, and that's that the credit card company is profitable. So that means that your interest is more than the points across the board. So check on that. Now, if you are paying it off in full every month, you're good. Although, you know, in my experience, I see a lot of the opposite. Don't let the points suck you in. If you got to ditch those things and pay with your debit card only in order to change the habit, that may be what you need to do. And actually, one of the most insightful things that I've heard Dave Ramsey say, he said, when it comes to you know, budgeting and paying off debt, it's not a math problem. If it were a math problem, you'd have solved it already. It's a behavior problem.
That's right.
So correcting behavior is more challenging than math. And so that's where you may need to do some things that are a little uncomfortable or a little different to get yourself to change the behaviors in order to live using a budget, pay a credit card off in full, switch to debit card, whatever it may be.
Yeah, for sure, certainly. And I think that's the two sides of the coin that you have to walk along. Are you super disciplined, changing the habits? That's what you're talking about there, Alex. Or are you not? And so like that's the reality that you find yourself in. And one of the quickest ways that has been said to change that shift, to see what it is, if you can't remember what it is that you've got automatically coming out, whether it's on your credit card or your bank card or whatever the case may be, is to cancel that one and get a new one in order to see where your margins are really at. You know, if you're not keeping an active P&L, now obviously if you got responsibilities, you have to then feed that back into the system and make sure you're getting those things paid. And yet at the same time, it gives you a broad idea and very basic and simple way of seeing what you've got going on if you're not actively doing a P&L. That could be applied both to business and to personal. A lot of us have some of those automatic payments that are coming out, and whether you're paying it off every month or whatever the case may be, you should check those things for certain. It mentions complete the P&L statement in the chart of accounts of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Again, if you don't have a copy of that, I can definitely provide you with a digital one. Just shoot me an email or call me.
I know you said this already. One of the things we did with our team is we bit the bullet and we completely cut out Boomtown and switched everything over to Command. And we just saved ourselves several $1,000s a month on that. And we were able to cut out a lot of other technology pieces and move everything over to Command for our team. And it's made a difference. I mean, we literally can cover payroll by moving our technology to Command. So when it came to a choice between learning a new system or laying off one of our employees for our sales team, our admin, that made the biggest difference. So look at everything with a critical eye.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's really what this is all about when we're talking about expenses and finding the margins and all of those things, is that what's going to become most important to you. It could be that is paying for the expired listing list the absolute most important thing, or is it paying your transaction coordinator? I don't know. Or paying your admin. These are decisions that you have to make in what your business is. And one of the things that we have really absolutely doubled down in as a company, and my hope is the guests hear this portion of it and apply it to their own business. Again, regardless of where you're at, I want to encourage you that you should be dialing in deep, doubling down with your database, the people who have already bought and sold with you, the referrals who have already come to you, whether it's from agent partners from all across the United States or within your own market centers or your own offices, the friends and family members who you should be touching base with right now, checking in on them. How's their family? Are they healthy? All of those things. That is going to help you cut some costs. If you're dependent on outsource lead generation, you need to think about, is that a profitable setup? As a matter of fact, an exercise I did with the top agent at our office, this was really, really clear. Actually, let me share this with you. It's really powerful. So what we did is we put on the whiteboard, and I can see you can't see it, so I'm going to stop writing on it. But what we put on her whiteboard was that she had 23 and some change, 2382, something like that, almost $2,400 a month that they were spending on outsourced lead generation. So incoming leads of an online nature. I'm talking realtor.com, Zillow, things like that, okay? And then we put a dollar amount of how much money she generated in GCI, gross commission income, off of those things, all right? It was 118,000 and some change. Okay, then we took it with the database. Now, she wasn't spending hardly $1,000 a year on the database. The database produced almost $250,000+ in GCI gross commission income. The dollar amount had they spent the $2,400 a month database versus online lead gen in those particular segments, I'm talking Zillow and Realtor.com, the return of income received was $3.69 per dollar spent. on those online platforms. On the database, if she had spent the same dollar amount per month, she did not. It was nearly $100 per dollar spent. Where should you put your money when you're watching the margins? That's what I'm getting at with an exercise like that. For certain. Make cuts in your expenses, step up your lead gen, cutting the fat. How are we on time? That's probably a good idea. 1:44. Not bad, huh? Okay. Maybe we should take a break. You took a break, Mark. Is that a thing?
Yeah, these long Zooms, you probably should. It's not a bad idea.
All right, man. So maybe we should. So right now it's 1:44. You want to come back at 1:50, stretch those legs, use the restroom, get a drink of water, make some coffee, whatever. We'll come back in 5 minutes, and we're good until then. We got another 30 minutes or so that we're going to wrap it up and put a bow on this sucker.
This is great information, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to hear the rest of it that you have. So
Thanks, David.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Hey, Colleen, are you there?
You guys good? We still got time, obviously.
Hey, Mr. Rosales.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. I just want to let you know you look absolutely wonderful and fabulous today in your presentation.
Oh, Eva, thank you so much. It's very sweet of you. I appreciate that.
No problem. You the man. You the man.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I was just thinking, I was trying to catch Colleen before she went on her break. I know she went over the profit and loss statement with us, but I probably need somebody to go sit down with me one-on-one to go over how to do a profit and loss statement. I truly need that badly.
Okay, fantastic. Who's your team leader at your office right now?
My wonderful friend, Mr. Alex.
Oh, yeah, Alex. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so Alex would probably be more than happy to set something up with you so that you can have that available. As a matter of fact, what I could do is I could send, because I did an exercise at my office, and I'll send it to Alex, and maybe he could send it on over to you, is that I've got a spreadsheet that is a current MREA model. So you plug and play what your goals are.
Okay.
And then it'll show you along the lines of that 30-30-40 guideline, right? So
Okay.
our cost of sales should be 30% of our income. Our
Right.
expenses should be 30%. And then our profit margins should be 40%.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, good job. I'll
Yeah.
I'll touch bases with Alex too. when we get done.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll shoot that out. I'm sure he has it, but I'll send it to him so it's top of mind and make sure he forwards it on to you.
Okay, thanks. I know I took a class. We took one early last year with Colleen, and I was sitting there looking like a nutcase. I needed to understand profit and loss. Really, I do.
Yeah, it's important, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is great. This is great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Rule of thumb, you just want to profit more than you lose.
Well,
And
yeah,
then you're okay.
right.
That would be good.
I mean, I'm no genius, but I can figure that one out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but it's got to be on paper. You know, some of us are a little visual.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you. You got to put on paper. But I'm saying that left side column, the good side, you want to be on that one.
Yeah.
You better believe it, man. That's where it's at. I'm just reading these comments here and seeing if I missed something. Oh, someone said, don't forget how much you spend on nails, hair, and Starbucks. Yeah, one of the best things I did to get my Starbucks spending in line was actually use the app. Because then you can preset the amount of money that you spend at a given time. And instead of paying cash or using my debit card, it's $25. This is what I got. This is what I'm spending, and when it's gone, man.
Wow.
Hey, David, that's how you handled the Starbucks budget. What about your hair and nails budget?
My hair, yeah. So my hair and nails budget, I definitely, yeah. That's a problem for me. It's out of control. I got to talk to Joe the barber, man.
There you go.
All right, it's 150.
I like Carmen's comment.
All right.
150. Let's go.
All right, here we go, guys. Painful first. I'm just reading through these comments, seeing if there's anything I needed to salt and pepper with real quick. Someone's talking about, Carmen mentions she went back to basic cable back in February. Good deal. Never really thought of it as a behavior, but it really is. Ruben, for sure, it's absolutely a behavior, my friend. You post that stuff on the Facebook site. Yes, I'm assuming that's what you just talked about with the 2019 MREA thing, Carmen. Yes.
What we can do is, David, if you could get that spreadsheet to Ubaldo and he can send it to everyone who was registered.
That's what I'll do. Yep.
And then everyone will have it. Good.
100%. Yep. Perfect. All right. Cool. Rolling back along here, guys. A little bit more we got to cover. Take stock and look for results. Try zero-based budgeting. Cut every expense back to zero. Reallocate funds to your justifiable expenses. And so, realistically, that's what helped us get out of debt. Was balancing to zero. And it is. So it has to become a learned behavior. You have to create these habits in order for you to do that. And that's both on the personal and on the business side. So if you're budgeting to zero, that means you've got a budget and you take that budget to zero. And then if there is an excess, then you have to reallocate those funds to either to your justifiable expenses, whether that's car, credit card, whatever the case, whatever you're trying to get out of debt from, and then adjust the budget as you need to. So that's one thing to take into consideration when you're doing that. Moving ahead. Slide 22. So cutting the fat, again, is what we're continuing on. Start cutting, right? Is there mail pieces that you're sending out that you don't need to send out, right? Right now, a lot of the sports programs are canceled. Do you need to send out the Bears schedule? Or the Rams schedule for y'all in California? You know, I don't know. And these are some of the things that you should be thinking about when you're doing some of your pre-ordering, because a lot of us pre-order this stuff, right? Office space, right? Now, some places in your marketplaces, in your offices, they might have given you a cut for the month of April. I don't know what's going on in your particular offices, but that's something that you might have to take into consideration.
We just did this with the 3 market centers that I'm operating partner of, and David and Alex and Mark and everyone else from the market centers can attest to this. We actually went line by line through our P&L statement, through our expenses for every expense. And we did it together so we could brainstorm on ways that we could cut a cost and then maybe reallocate a service that was either free or less money to do the same thing that we needed it to do. So we were able to negotiate a lot of that down. And then we were also able to go through and eliminate stuff that was just ridiculous. So I think in one of our market centers, we saved over $10,000. So like just by cutting.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely, you're absolutely right, Colleen. And that's one of the beauties of going through a shift is it makes you get very serious and very personal with your expenses. Would you guys agree with that? Yep. Yeah.
The challenge is sticking to it when we're not in the shift.
When you get out of the shift, you're saying?
Yeah. So when we're not in the shift, we tend to go a little bit nuts, but like, oh, we're fine. Money's coming in. It's rolling in. And then this virus came out of nowhere. And now we're all of a sudden like, oh, crap. And had we been practicing this from the get-go, we would be in a much better financial situation. But we get lax with our money when things are good. And that's the problem.
You're spot on, Anita. Like in a thriving market, we tend to overlook silly expenses or out of line expenses, and this is really an opportunity for us to get back on track and to make sure we're doing things sensibly.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit that I went there, and I've been a single parent for a really long time, and I was the master of the budget. I knew where every penny was. And I won't lie, the last year and a half, I've gotten a little lazy.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the reality of the situation is this: unless we build the habit, because it's been brought up here in the chat a few times, and I know people that mentioned it, but unless you change the behaviors and you build the habits, to be mindful, to be good stewards with, I'm a spiritual guy, with what the Lord has given you, right? You've worked hard for it, and yet this is the blessings that you've been allowed to receive. If you're not, then how is it that you're going to be able to put these things into action? You have to build these habits, right? And you're absolutely right, though, Anita. It is something that we get lazy on, especially when we're doing automatic payments on things.
Yep, exactly. And I have to do the same thing. I've got to go back and do line by line because I've gotten very complacent, and I got to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it anymore.
Yeah.
When I went through and did this, I was paying a health club membership for myself, for my son, and for my other son who hasn't even used that health club in a year and a half because we thought he canceled it and he didn't. So I was paying $83 a month for him to go use the health club, or for him to not use the health club for the last year and a half. How dumb was that? Like, so I'm just sharing with you, don't feel dumb because we all do it, right? Like, going back through it.
Yeah, I have a membership to the gym, and I asked myself the other day, who's Jim?
Who's Jim?
Who's Jim? I don't know that guy.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's awesome.
Can I share something real quick?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I just am, like, as I'm hearing all this, and Alex, I had some technical issues, so I came a little late. But when you were talking about, like, looking at what you have, I mean, I've shared my story, and, I'm going to lengths, but, after the last crash, it took me out basically, almost. Well, it took me out mentally. But I ended up really, Keller Williams was such a blessing because between my coach, which honestly, I couldn't afford at the time. However, I knew that's what I needed. So my coach and just being surrounding and learning these fundamentals, it prepared me because I went into bankruptcy. I owed the IRS gobs and gobs of money. And so now going through this, I learned the hard way of having to do that. And then even sitting down with David, I was the one that he was talking about not that long ago about looking at my expenses. I thought I had a real good handle on it, but even so, I trimmed that down. I probably cut close to $22,000 a year out of my expenses for this year now, just looking at everything. And so now I'm in a position where this is happening and I was prepared. So I had reserves and my debt is paid off. The only thing I have is my mortgage and my car. And that is such a good, and I say this not because it's just take what these people, take what you're saying, because we've all been there. I mean, we've all had that story. So really just do these basic, they seem so simple. What is that saying? It's simple.
Simple, but it's not easy.
Simple, not easy.
And just really, do it. Like I'm sitting here today going, I saw the comment about the hair and I'm like, well, I've been wanting to grow my hair out. So I guess this is a way to do it. I mean, you're just not going. So these little things make such a huge impact. The auto pays, all that stuff. I mean, and I'm so grateful for Keller Williams and having this stuff. I mean, it's just changed my life. So
yeah,
take heed in everything that you're saying.
Most definitely. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who, to piggyback on what Kim's saying, my background in terms of my financial situation was absolutely terrible. I had to short sell my first house that I bought. I had to file bankruptcy. I had my car repossessed with my 1 year with Anthony, my firstborn. His car seat was in the back. We had to ask my wife's grandmother to drive us through there so we could recover the car seat. That was right in that whole crash setup. It was bad. I was telling somebody, an agent I was talking to this morning, same story. And yet I'm really blessed in the opportunity that I had people who stood up for me over the course of the last 4 years and gave me a platform and an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to be able to push forward, to be in the position where I'm at today. It's a tremendous blessing. The amount of growth, had someone told a young David Rosales back then, I would like to have thought that I would have been open and receptive. And yet when the teacher appears, right, the student is ready, or vice versa, whatever that is, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's what it is. I know Alex probably has that quote down, but you get what I'm saying. At the end of the day, right now could be your time. Right now could be your time to really take advantage of this shift. For one, to get your personal stuff in order. For two, to get your business stuff in order. And for three, so you can be primed and put in a position to take the opportunity to be as helpful as possible in order to facilitate people with a caring hands of buying, selling, and investing in real estate during this shift, during this situation that we find ourselves in, for sure. So here's a challenge, finding your margin. Think of the 2 areas where you can make cuts today, not tomorrow. So at 2, whatever the time it is that we end up in the next 30 minutes, when we break for this, if you take something away, then you should do these 2 things. Think today, what are 2 areas that you can cut personally and on the business, right? Pull up that old bank statement, get out the old highlighter, and start figuring it out. The second thing, think of 3 more areas where you can commit. Not hope, in terms of an expectation that maybe one day in the future, but that you can commit, right, to making cuts starting next week. So 2 today, personal and business. 3 that you can commit to starting next week. A total of 5. Start taking an inventory, guys. Start taking a stand for yourself. And here's the thing. If you're sitting here and you're like, yeah, I got it together, everything's good, I got 6 months reserves. Let me tell you this. There's people in this device right here, my friends. The people who you care about, who have made you a good living. Do they know this stuff? What kind of contribution can you come from if you just had this simple, hey, I was on a class today. It made me think of you. Here's an exercise that I did today. What are the 2 areas that you can make cuts in today? What are the 3 you can commit to next week? Let's have an accountability group. So the people in your sphere, in your phone, right, who are sharing stuff, you're liking it on Facebook, oh, happy birthday, blah, 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 right? Think of them in this context. If you're going to be the real estate economist of choice, how can you help your people do this exercise? Thinking outside of the box here. Continuing. Yep. All right. Payroll and lead generation. The quickest way to cut expenses is to cut back on payroll. However, your staff is an investment. Before de-hiring to try to slim down the payroll, You could cut hours. So if you have a staff, these are opportunities, right? Combine positions, offer a bonus rather than a salary increase, offer a package, listen to what your staff wants, work within the confines of what you can do in order to stand in a gap for the people who you are employing, if you do in fact have employees. So you can watch those things. Part-time staff, new staff members, borderline performers. It may not be possible to keep everyone on your team, top grade your employees, let go of those who don't perform to the standard, right? These are the people who you can look at. And here's what I'll say. We have a brilliant system called the KPA, which gets you a very tight setup for a 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day evaluation. If now on the shift, if you did not follow that process of hiring people, of evaluating the talent, or if you're in need to reevaluate that talent, now would be the time to get with your team leader in order to get these things nailed in. And if you're a guest on here and you'd like to know more about a KPA, you don't have to join in order to take part in the process. So I did a process with Kim where we were able to dial in. We did a tech analysis, right? And we did a 30-30-40 budget analysis. And we also took a look at her assessment to see what her strengths and growth opportunities were, both for her and some of her team members. And there's other people on the call who I'm sure I've done it with as well. Things to consider. And if you're not in Indiana and you're in Illinois, get with Alex. And if you're not in Illinois or Indiana, get with Mark or whomever he has doing those kind of things. Prospecting, right? So in a shifting market, your lead generation should be focused on prospecting and enhancing and an enhanced market, right? So market for a direct response, drive customers to speak with you rather than just build your brands, follow up your marketing with personal contact. Prospecting, you got that network, right? That data bank, right? Lead generates, prospecting physicals and expireds if the context is proper, right? Here's one thing that I thought was really interesting. When people are cutting expenses, they're thinking, oh, I don't want to go after expireds. This market is crazy in terms of being a shelter in place, and it might seem like I've got commission breath. But what about the for sale by owners? Let me ask you a question. There's such a marginalized group of people right now. If there ever was a time for you to actually be caring and to give a crap about somebody in a time of crisis, those are the people who need help. They're on an island by themselves. If you ever wanted to build a relationship with a stranger in the context of real estate, now would be a good time to reach out to them. They're lost. They haven't a clue of what's going on unless they have a friend in the industry who they would eventually list with. And that is few and far between, my friends. I'll get off my soapbox on that, but you get it. Hold more virtual open houses, right? Do you have a listing that's not moving and you need to have that price improvement conversation and other alternative ways for you to get traffic through there virtually, right? Thinking outside of the box. What not to cut? Don't cut your customer service, right? That would be a bad idea. Don't cut training and coaching. One of the first things we do is as we look at opportunities to save money is we might be thinking, well, I shouldn't pay $99 to take Bold Pivot in May because that's $100 that I absolutely have to have. And that's true. You can only answer that question for yourself and for your family. And yet, if you had an opportunity as you were going through your expenses to invest in yourself and in your business, you owe it to the people who you serve, including yourself, to take that chance, to take that opportunity. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that we do not cut on what generates the income.
That's right.
Really important. Like, we have income generating activities and we need to make sure that we're not being wasteful. However, that you definitely at this point do not want to start cutting out stuff that's paying you back.
Right.
So like Mark, used that example this morning about people, getting on the bus or chasing the bus. I mean, if you're driving a car and you're running out of gas and you got to get to the next place and you got to start shedding weight out of the car, you don't drain the gas in the car, right? You can throw other stuff out of the car, You probably want to keep the people if at all possible, and you want to keep the gas for sure.
Yeah,
This is the same thing.
100%. Otherwise, you're going to have a real difficult time walking to house when you're trying to show them, right? If the analogy is holding true. I love that. Really.
Right.
Make the most of what you have, right? Use human energy. I've got a surplus. You can't have any of it. That's just the reality here, guys.
I was wondering where we could get some of that, man. Come on.
For sure. You got to put beet juice powder in your coffee in the morning.
Beet juice in the coffee. Beet juice in the coffee.
Beet juice in the coffee. Yep. All right. So put your creativity and your energy into working both harder and smarter, right? Do the FaceTime transactions yourself. Get more assistance, not assistance. Work with preferred partners, right? There are people right now in your sphere that are probably more than willing to help you in a time of crisis and need right now in terms of doubling down that energy than ever before, right? The transaction coordinator at your office might be a touch slower, maybe. Maybe it's time to utilize their partner. There might be lenders who you usually work with, right? They may be more interested in helping you leverage in order to get more touches into your database now more than ever. You might have title people who are looking to be more helpful as they slow down now more than ever. Here's something that's really interesting that the genius, Tony DeSella, had mentioned on a call the other day. You might be allocating some funds in order to support local businesses right now by dining out, carrying out, right? How powerful would it be that if you had your database of 1,000, 500, 200 people, that you can then turn around and say, hey, would you be willing to give a free appetizer or a small discount if I were able to talk and rave about you being open still and the quality of food and service that you're providing in this time to my database? How many partnerships can you build strategically right now in the essential business sector? I'm just saying. There's opportunity out there. Double up on people's energy, right? Maximizing your tools, leveraging yard signs, using your market center services, whatever that looks like. Harnessing technology, right? Taking advantage of commands, uploading your listings to that. It's talking about the career growth initiative here, which is, it's pretty simple at the end of the day what you're doing. And I hope the next chart is over. Yep, here we go. So how many appointments are you going on? And the context here I'm going to augment is digitally, right? How many conversations are you having in order to generate appointments? How many listings are you taking? In the beginning, we talked about building that pipeline out for May, June, July, right? Bringing it full circle here in order to have that inventory and stability. Because I want to tell you this beyond a shadow of a doubt. There is coming a time where the green light is going to go. Will you be prepared for it? We talked a lot about expenses. We talked a lot about expense management. But we have to have the income in order to do it. And now is the opportunity and the time to come from contribution, to be helpful, to provide clarity, right? Doing all these things in order to be the real estate economist of choice in your sphere, in your database, in order to have those appointments set up digitally or otherwise. To have those listings taken, right? In order to generate those closings, both in the listing and the buy side, in order to have your profit, your GCI, your gross commission income. And that wall of value there, right? Is the services that you're providing, right? If there ever was a time for you to show up in a powerful way in the customer service realm, which is what we're doing. Again, what we had mentioned earlier is that you have the opportunity to foster, build, and have these relationships within your database and build new ones, right? That's what it is. Boom, bottom line. Wrapping it up here, ladies and gentlemen. Downtrending markets are a huge opportunity to find better ways to run your business. The degree to which you need to respond will depend on the conditions in your local market. This is why, at least in our private Facebook group, and I recommend anyone who's not doing it to do this, is that you need to be paying attention to what's going on in your market, in the places where you serve at a high level. How many new listings are coming on the market? Believe it or not, listings are coming on the market every single day. These are facts. Houses are going under contract. Just in the last 6 days, I think there was almost 200. If someone who's on my team and we had that discussion this morning, you'd be able to shout it out. But it was a lot just in the last 6 days.
127. David.
127. Thank you, Javier. That's what I'm saying. Just in the last 6 days. The degree to which you need to respond, local market decisions. Your success will depend on how well you know and understand that market. Be the real estate economist of church. Be the local expert. So question every assumption you have and every dollar you spend as a result. Action plan. So remember, I told you that there were 2 things you needed to commit to today, right? 3 things next week. Put in a capstone on it. This is your action plan. Don't put away this guide without developing a plan to put what you have learned into action. That action plan should be located on pages 38 and 39 of the guide. If for whatever reason you didn't receive the guide, I know it was posted in the chat. It was in the email as well. If you don't have it, message Mark, myself, or Alex, and we'll get it to you. Period. Right? Assess your strengths and your areas of improvement. There's holes in your game. Where do you need coaching? Right? Where do you need help? Make an appointment with one of the team leaders here. Again, it doesn't matter your affiliation. We're here to help, because without realtors who, quite frankly, are going to be the frontline people. Right now, the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, those are the ones taking care of the sick and putting in the work right now. And who's going to help put America back together locally is going to be us, friends. We're going to nurse them back to health on the other side of the equation. Are you up for that task? Are you in relationship with the people in order to do that? That's the real question. Write down the steps that you will take to improve your skills, complete it, share it, and commit to it, period. There's things that we've covered on this call that you absolutely have to take advantage of. Personal expenses, watching the margins. Business, same thing, right? Maybe you need to take a deeper look into what you're doing in terms of entertainment, your food, your meal planning, all of those things. And maybe you need to be having these conversations with your database and your sphere, right? That's what it is. Zoom role play tomorrow. Yeah, there's going to be a Zoom role play Mark brought off tomorrow in the afternoon. Absolutely. For sure. Kim's getting a whole bunch of love here. Kim is a beautiful lady inside and out. There you go. That's what's up. I agree. People admire you, Kim. There we go. Beautiful. That's my sister, by the way. Cool. So these are the other tactics that we're going to be going with. Any last minute ahas, any takeaways that you have from this? Ready, set, go.
I think the biggest one for me is about just getting back down to basics and going line by line in your business and your personal, and just making sure that you cut everything that you don't need. And it really is it's gonna hurt some things, but it's gonna hurt later when you don't have the money because you're spending it frivolously. So
precisely.
My aha was collecting all your bills and actually writing them down on a piece of paper so that you can see them visually and see where you're spending your money, where you can take it away, and what's most important, and then how to apply the debt program to minimize your bills so you can actually see it. Because I think we all have our bills in our head, like insurance, car note, house note, and groceries, or utilities or whatever. So I think the general things are in our head, but just to see overall what exactly you have in front of you, I think that's a big aha for me that I'm going to do.
Absolutely. It's just like when you want to lose weight, right? You
right.
Start with where you're at so you know how far you have to go to get to the target.
Right.
If you can't track it, you can't fix it.
Right.
It's just moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful is in relation to your budget, your finances. We do it entrepreneurially. We do it as we go. It's in our head, right? It's the same thing as how we're entrepreneurial in our businesses. So when it's time to get real, it's time to get purposeful about it. You start by, writing it down, and then, like Mark said, tracking it. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest aha moments for me. I run 2 businesses, so this is a good time to just sit with both of them side by side. And I know last year when I came on to Keller Williams, I closed my corporate office for my other business and got a desk at Keller because it just made more sense. So I had already been cutting some of the slack for business because I want to try to streamline it and do that. So it's difficult, it's painful, but it works. So this just, I need to learn that profit and loss statement. So Mr. Alex Finsky, I'm coming at you.
I love it. Ruben, you had something, brother.
Yes, just to clamp down on the needs versus the wants. And that in itself is hard, but doing that, I know that it's going to get me to where I want to go, to identifying that and then cutting that stuff out.
Yes, sir.
Basically, that's it.
Brilliant. Love it. What else? Who else has got it? Ahas, takeaways. What are you going to commit to? What are you going to commit to, people? What you got?
Dave, one of the things that I like that you said was that we never think about because we're so focused on our own stuff is that we have a data bank and we should be calling our data bank and sharing this knowledge with them because they need the help as much as we do. And when we're looking at the exercise, as much as we're doing it, having them as an accountability and being able to come up with a resource of help goes a long way.
100%.
I'll share something. So one of the things that I did personally was called out my creditors and my higher minimum payments. They were able to waive that amount. The interest still accrues, but I don't have to make that minimum payment. And my smaller minimum payments, I just kind of doubled up on them to kind of see if I could climb out of a little bit of the debt that I'm in right now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Until I love that. That's brilliant. Love it. What else? What else? Come on, guys. Ahas.
Well, for me, kind of, I guess, I'm brand new. I just signed on last week. So kind of this kind of helped me. Yeah, kind of helped me see like maybe what I should buy, what I shouldn't. I was thinking, oh, I have to put money into this. I have to put money into this. And after seeing this, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's absolutely right, Ashley. That's brilliant. So this gives you so being a newer agent, this gives you that perspective in order for you to really kind of tighten it up. So what might seem necessary as a new agent because it's shiny object syndrome, right? You're seeing all these other agents doing all these things, and yet those were luxuries or expenses that they thought that they needed, and yet they didn't. And you're seeing that with fresh eyes right off the bat. Brilliant. I love that. Great job.
Yes, new agents, they have such a good opportunity right now to really explore what the brokerage has to offer them, whether you're with KW or not, because a lot of brokerages, even if you're not with KW, offer you a lot of software that you don't have to pay for. It's already included in your standard fee that you're paying them. Right. With KW, we have Command. I mean, it's such a powerful system if you really just start diving into it, and you could save so much money. I mean, just the amount of money from getting off of my own CRM and dialer and stuff like that has saved me hundreds of dollars a month, if not thousands. Yeah. And as a new agent, take advantage of what's already there available to you because there's so much that you don't have to spend because it's already there.
100%. Absolutely. For sure.
The other thing, Dave, that I've been thinking about is in doing is, when the market, before this, we're all just going fast and furious, right? And we're just overloaded and we listen to, we'll catch a webinar or we'll go to a class or something, and then we just get back to business. And one of the true, silver linings in this situation is when we have something like this, like I made my notes of homework and stuff, we have that time now to do that and focus on it and master that or complete it, even just completing it. So the time, like looking at your budget, you have time now. Any other time we're going, oh yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow. I'd say, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Where these things, these big nuggets that we're getting, we can actually chisel through them and get through them now. So this is the perfect time to do that so that when those floodgates open, like Tony talked about this morning and stuff like, so when this surge comes, when that green light goes back on, this stuff that we normally put aside, we can take the time now to do this. So if you're looking at a budget, take the time and do a budget. If you're looking at, cutting your expenses, cut your expenses. Look, take your bank statements out. I've done all that. I even canceled a landline. My assistant said it only took a pandemic, but I don't have a landline anymore. You know what I mean? But it's just certain little things that now's the time to really just embrace this and do what you can. I mean,
in the military, we called it train for war at a time of peace.
Love that.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any final ahas, or anyone want to share the commitments that you're making to here today or next week?
I commit to sharing this with my family.
Yes, sir. Ooh, yes.
Start to look at cutting their budget as well.
I love it, Ruben. I love it, brother. Great job, man. Brilliant. Anyone else?
I kind of have a question, I guess. I had spoke to Mark the other day, and he had told me, first step is to, call everyone in my circle, everyone in my contacts. But what else can I do to get my business going, kind of get it started, other than, I've already called some of the people in my circle, but kind of want to see ideas, I guess, kind of to see what I can do to get it up and going.
For sure. Mark, you want to take that? And I'll salt and pepper on that?
Yeah, we've already had the discussions too, Ashley. Yeah, it's just a matter of call them often, make sure that they know that you're there, you're there to help, no matter where they are in the country. There's plenty of opportunities. So, we can sit down and talk about it more and more. Anita's got some really good stuff for the newer agents as well. So reach out to her to see what her plans are and stuff like that too.
I'd suggest going back to the lead generation model. Ooh, look at that. I got a ghost book.
Fake news. It don't real.
Maybe if I show the cover, maybe that'll work. All right. So there's this book. Oh no. All right, whatever. Page 137, lead generation model. All right. So in that, they're going to talk about the method and message of, who are you communicating to and for what purpose. And there is a list in there of potential options, and then the bullseye strategy of how to, what plans to deliver to what people. It may be beneficial to go back and explore that a little bit more as well. The lead gen model and page 137 of MREA.
And learn command. Get into command.
Yeah, learn command. Start keeping tabs of your people. This is a great time to all those people that you already reached out to, go back to them and add a contribution. And how can you help? How can you be of assistance during this time? Do they know anybody that needs any kind of help? This is a time where you could build a rapport of that you're not there just trying to make a dime off of them, that you're a realtor with full services and you're here to help them. Everybody's going through a crisis right now, and there's the best time to be that person they can lean on.
Okay.
Make sure you have them all set up in command and assign them to their neighborhood, because they're going to ask what's going to happen in the market. Well, why don't I do this? Why don't I set you up with a bi-weekly neighborhood update just specific to your tract? And that way you'll see exactly what's going on, and you have access to it. Once I set it up, you can go look at it at any time.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I would follow up with to continue putting some salt and pepper on that, Ashley, is that the opportunity for you to reach out to these people, not just, hey, here's that quick and dirty introduction of I'm new into real estate, or I just got my license, or I just joined company X, or whatever the case may be, Keller Williams. You now have a platform in which you can reach out to them with this kind of an exercise, right? All these different classes that you're learning are not just applicable to you and your business personally, but think about even some of these mindset things that we've talked about in our 1030 calls, that I'm sure Anita and Mark have talked to you about. But think about all these little things as you're making these scare calls and as you're touching your people, that you can now then bring extra value to them. Maybe some of the people in your sphere can take advantage of the small business loans and the small business grants that are going out there. Give these people these links. Maybe there's emergency unemployment that needs to be filed, and there's people in your sphere who are hurting who need that information. You know, think about the different information. Again, we talk about being the real estate economist of choice. It's also that person who's providing value at the highest level, that, and when that light goes green, that they're going to be reaching back into you. So it's staying top of mind. So you're in command. You're setting up these smart plans. You're doing the neighborhood nurtures like Mark is talking about, that Ubaldo is talking about. You're using the model, the lead generation model. Was it page 137 you said, Alex?
132.
It starts at 132. The diagram of the bullseye is 137. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So then you're following that as the people in which you want to stay in core contact with. And then you actually, if I could leave you with any kind of parting words at the end of the day, is you have to look at the people that you're reaching out to, right? Are you looking at them in terms of a relationship being transactional, right? Meaning you're only trying to get something from them, or are you looking at your relationship with them as others-centered? That's what you want to look at the end of the day. The people that you're connecting with, is it with value? Is it centered around them and their needs? Or is it transactional in other you're looking for the reward out of it? Because the more we touch people in a way that is others-centered, the more they're going to show up in your life bringing value.
Okay.
Reciprocating it. It's a natural phenomenon, believe it or not. What Zig Ziglar said it, that the more people that you help get what they want, ultimately you will get what you want. But it's being others-centered. So think about those things, and think about the community that you live in presently and what community services are out there, and be the conduit to hook people up into those things. Are there food banks that their distant relative, cousin, or even their own families would need? Are there schools providing lunches? Is there curriculum and activities for people who are at home for the foreseeable future in terms of homeschooling their kids that you can connect them with? Is the fire department and is the first responders and stuff like that, are they generally offer some kind of services to the community, right? Is there something you can DoorDash, grab, and drop off? You know, is there information that you can send in an email, a text message, or a Facebook message? And a lot of times, Ashley, the biggest thing that you can do beyond a shadow of a doubt is just be someone who can encourage somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now's the opportunity for you to just touch somebody right there on the heart.
Okay.
100%. That's what I would be doing. If I was brand new in the business, I would be touching as many people from contribution as I possibly can, letting them know that I care about them. I love them. Here's the future and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to help you in the forefront.
Okay.
For sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being coachable. I appreciate that. And allowing everyone to learn. No, for real. And allowing everyone to learn off of your question. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, it's 2:31. We've gone 1 minute over. From the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you for participating in Shift Pivot Tactic number 2, right? Watch the line, watch the margin. Yeah, if you have anything else, show up on Wednesday for the next session. It's at 1 o'clock Central Time, whatever that is specific.
11.
There you go, 11 o'clock Pacific, and keep it rolling, guys.
David,
Great
you
job,
are
Dave.
awesome.
I appreciate you.
You are awesome,
David, thank you, buddy. That was amazing.
Thanks, buddy.
David, that was awesome, bro.
Thank you.
See you guys tomorrow,
Guys, have a good week.
for command.
Appreciate you guys.
Dave.